What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Forging the Path. It's a podcast that's all about empowering men to become who God created us to be. And today I get to have a conversation with Addison. Addison, welcome.
Thank you. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm nervous, but so glad and excited to be here.
Yeah, you said that.
I know, I did. I'm nervous because it's like I'm just so passionate, and I love Jesus. I love what you're doing. I'm so honored to even be a part of this, and I'm just pumped. So
Yeah.
I just got a lot I want to.
It's gonna be awesome.
Dude,
Yeah, we got a lot to get into, and so I'm gonna ask you to give a little bit of an overview of your story, because you got quite a story.
I do,
and I think it's gonna bless so many people. So I want to give you time and space to just tell it, however you want to tell it. Remind me though, we got connected. Was it Dale?
Yeah.
Is that shout out to Dale?
Yeah, through Greg Marshall.
Through Greg Marshall.
Yeah.
Shout out to both those guys. Those are awesome leaders in
Wonderful guys.
This Milwaukee area. Both of them. Love those guys so much. Respect them a lot. So thank you both. But Addison, give the listeners and the viewers a little sense of who you are, where you come from.
Yeah, so my name's Addison Chapman. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with pride, anxiety, lust, just all the things. I like to open up like that because I went to Celebrate Recovery, and Jesus used that as a tool in my life to help me grow my relationship with him. And I'll get into more on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Wisconsin, southwest Wisconsin, over in Boscobel, Richland Center, Prairie du Chien area. Yeah. So that was awesome. I mean, my parents were together at the time, and I was at my grandparents all the time, breaking horses. I learned how to train and break horses when I was younger. Wow. 10 years old and on. I mean, from 6 years old, I was on a horse, doing all that growing up. And then my parents had an affair on each other. They're like, we're going to resolve this. We're going to move and get away from the environment that we were in. So they moved, and it didn't work out. And so we lived in Edgerton, Wisconsin. It was a few hours back, a few hours away anyway from there. Yeah. So like I was saying, we were in Edgerton, and we lived right next to Lake Koshkonong. So that was great. My brother Austin and I, we were enjoying the lake, and my mom ended up moving away. She went to Dubuque, Iowa, and then it was my dad, my brother, and I, and we were batching it. The house was a mess, folding laundry on our own, doing all the things on our own, learning kind of the latchkey kids. Is that what that was? Yeah. That was the saying. It's like they call them latchkey kids or something. Yep. So that was me.
So what happened after that? I mean, and how old are you at this point?
Okay, so I'm 11. We moved to Edgerton when I was 11. Yeah. And my mom left, and it was about 2.5, 3 years that I was there. And then 13 hit, the divorce was final, and I think I was 13 or 14, and I ended up moving to Dubuque, Iowa.
You move again?
Yeah, I moved. And I went to live with my mom because it was split time. Yeah. 2 weeks here, every other weekend, going back and forth to Dubuque.
At this point in your life, 13-ish, like, do you have any sense of who God is?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What's that like?
My relationship with God at that time was really superficial. We just went to church with my grandma and grandpa. And backing up a little, I failed the 3rd grade because I couldn't read. And I learned that I couldn't read when I got moved to a Christian school where they were teaching the literature and everything a lot more thorough and getting more one-on-one attention. They're like, this kid can't read. Wow. So I had to go back to the 3rd grade, it was fine. It is what it is. I can read now, if that matters.
Yeah. Did that make you feel any kind of insecurity at that time?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. You see your friends and peers, going up in grades, and that was before the whole No Child Left Behind thing. That is what it is. I fast forward to the teaching experience, I can say a little bit more on that. So when I went to Dubuque, I was just living wild and reckless because I was not a Christian. I knew of God, and I wanted to say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but I was not. And I ended up on my junior and senior year. I ended up living with my supervisor at a car wash. So it was him and his wife and his new baby girl, and then just some slum teenager not wanting to have any accountability. Because I was that type of guy that, you might see in the movies that you're just like, I just want to punch this guy because he's just a dirtbag. And that was me, dude.
Your teen years were filled with that.
Yeah, I was into sports, very athletic, but the end of my sophomore year, I thought it was more important to make money and chase tail and party and be foolish, and that's what I did.
Wow.
So, that was just a rough time in my life. My stepdad and my mom were trying to, be good parents and hold me accountable. But I was just not having it. I mean, they're like, well, we're going to take your truck away. And I'm like, well, here's the keys, and I'll go get my own ride or whatever. I was that kid.
Nice.
Like, well, we'll change the door locks. Okay, I'll stay with my friends. Like, I am going to do me.
Yeah.
And they were being more than reasonable. Yeah. And I was just so doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
then where did that lead? I mean, so after
high
school?
So my senior year, I was like, okay, I can either drop out like some of my friends had done and just keep working at the car wash. I was 17 years old, and I was supervising guys in their late 30s and 40s who were addicted to meth. They didn't have teeth or whatever. So they don't want to hear any direction from a 17-year-old kid. Like, hey, you missed this vacuuming the car. Can you take the time and maybe vacuum it the right way? Yeah. That doesn't go over very well.
Sure.
Or I could go back to school and see what's next. So I talked with my dad and my stepmom. I moved back to Edgerton, and it was a short period of time. I actually had enough credits to graduate early, other than having to have an extra semester of English, I think. I think that was a Wisconsin requirement at the time. I don't know what it is now, but so I finished, graduated early, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I knew I didn't want a desk job and I knew I didn't want to go to college because I was like, I don't want to go into debt. I know that if I go to college, I know myself well enough at the time that I was like, if I go to college, I'm going to just get in debt, waste my time and money, and become an alcoholic. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps. And I got paid to be an alcoholic.
Wow.
Like, it was...
What year did you join the Marines?
April 1st, 2008.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
That's... Okay.
So...
Those are big years.
Yeah,
From
it was.
Like 02 or 03 to...
Yeah.
I mean, there's...
I know you've had some guys on your podcast that they know more about that stuff, too. But yeah, when I was in 08, I was looking forward to doing whatever I could, and my dad was like, you're an idiot, I'm going to break both your legs, I don't want you to go. Because he didn't want to lose his son, and I get that. He never served, my uncles never served, but both my grandfathers did. They were both in the Army.
Yeah.
So that appealed to me because, I was like, adrenaline rush jobs, this, that. And so I told him, well, it's too late, I already signed papers, I joined, you know. He's like, well, he was mad. He was angry and mad. Oh. And I was like, so if you're going to break my legs, you're going to have to try. He's like, I'm not going to break your legs. He's like, just what are you going to do?
He was probably just scared.
Oh, for sure.
And
I was like, I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Okay. And he's like, well, do something you can do when you get out. I said, fine, I'll do that. So I went to my recruiter. And do you remember the movie The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher?
I did see that once,
great movie.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Great movie, right? So they were rescue swimmers in the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to do that, but in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And my recruiter's like, you want to be a firefighter? I'm like, do they get to do that? He's like, oh, yeah. And me being as gullible as I was like, sign me up. I'm doing it. And
sure.
They don't do any of that. So, no, I was an aircraft rescue firefighter. Basically, I was on an airfield. And, we had, if a helicopter or a jet or a plane or anything went down or had an in-flight emergency, our crash crews would respond to that. So we were trained in both structural fire and aircraft rescue firefighting and basic EMS stuff. So a little bit of everything. A lot of what it entailed is pinning the landing gear on the aircraft to make sure that the outriggers and stuff don't collapse, because sometimes when they put their landing gear out, it doesn't lock all the way out. So those type of things, or if an engine goes out, because sometimes some of the aircraft have multiple engines, not just one, obviously. So
sure,
stuff like that. But that's what we did.
Your time in the Marines, you said you're basically an alcoholic. Is that
So at the
accurate?
Yeah, dude, because I was super prideful, and that's actually what led me to want to be in the Marine Corps. Is like, if I'm going to do this, I want to be the best, right?
Sure.
Just that real big head that I had at that time in my life. I opened up saying I struggle with pride.
Right.
We
all have that.
Yeah, we do, right?
In certain ways,
different
displays
like,
differently,
hey,
maybe.
help,
but yeah.
But do I really?
Wow.
So, yeah, I was in the barracks just doing stupid things, just drinking with my friends. I'm underage at this time. I had a fake ID and everything. So, fast forward a little bit, because so in 2009, right? I joined in 2008. All of the things that I was doing in high school, I just continued to do, and my stupidity and pride level just was amplified.
Wow.
Because I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Yeah.
That was the mentality, and that's what they want you to have.
There's a part of that is
they have to get you to do things that a normal person wouldn't do.
Exactly.
It's that perception of how you believe you see yourself. So, yeah. But
yours was not didn't have a humility to it.
Not really.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Okay. When you're around a bunch of guys your same age, you're all doing the same thing. You're just you're in it.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
I was in for 4 years.
For 4 years.
I did my 4 years.
Okay.
So in 2009, it's kind of funny because it was back in St. Patrick's Day in 2009.
Okay.
I wanted a green beer. Never had a green beer. We were on our days off because the firefighting schedule was different. We were on for 24 and then off for 48. So we had a lot of time on our hands, but we also worked a lot. Yeah. So we were off, and our crew was off, and I was out with a couple guys that are older than me, and so they were all of age and stuff, but I was not. So I was the designated driver. Now, shamefully, I had a high alcohol tolerance at that time in my life. PTing out of my mind, drinking on all my time off, just stuff like that. And so I could put away 30 before I was feeling it, and that's bad. That's really bad.
Yep.
And one of the things, when you get off work, they could recall you because you're emergency services, and if something did happen, they need people to come backfill.
Sure.
So a lot of the practice was, hey, it's 6:30 in the morning. We just got off, got back to the barracks. You crack a beer. Hey, I can't show up because I've got alcohol in my system, so they can't recall you. That was one of those little loopholes that they tried to get around, and you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that, right? But that's what a lot of us did.
Okay.
So I wanted to have this green beer, so I'd use my fake ID, and I was out, and I had 2 green beers, right? 20, and over a course of 8 hours, because we were at Buffalo Wild Wings as soon as they opened at like 11 a.m. So we were there all day, and it was 2 in the morning when we're coming home, something like that. 1:30, 2 in the morning, we're coming home, and I had probably a whole gallon and a half of water because we're down in Yuma, Arizona. It's hot out anyway. So I was as clear as day as I am talking to you, but I had it in my system. I was just driving stupid. I had my roommate's 04 Acura TL. It was a 4-door, and I had my roommate and a couple of buddies in the back, and I'm driving. I'm going maybe 140, 150-ish. Whoa. I'm right there at that governor limit on that car, you know what I mean? And I just took a corner too fast, and I jumped the median, crossed 4 lanes. It was a turning median. I jumped that, went across 4 lanes of traffic, and then jumped that median and ended up on the other side of the 4 lanes of traffic. Nobody got hurt. I didn't hit anyone. I just destroyed the entire undercarriage of the car.
All right.
So I told everybody to bail. I said, hey, you guys bail. I'll take the heat for this. And so they walked back to post. I called the cops, called the ambulance, all that crap. So they get there, and I called my chain of command. They were not happy. Called my dad. Hey, Dad, I'm probably going to jail tonight. Just so you know, everything's fine. I'm fine, but I'll call you when I know more. Just heads up. So no parent wants to get that call because, again, I'm from Wisconsin, from their kid in Arizona who's saying, hey, I'm going to jail, by the way. So I spent the night in jail, and then my chain of command came, got me the next day, and life sucked because I was a new Marine, or what they call a boot Marine, right? So I was still early in my career, a little old Lance Corporal E3, and just making dumb decisions.
Yeah.
And so I got to back up a little bit because this is really where my holy spanking comes in. Okay. This is where Jesus shook my life up. All right. So, because that was the event that kind of prompted all of it. But before that, I went home on leave and I made some really bad decisions. And I slept with a married woman. And I just felt like a dirtbag because I got called on it and I owned up to it. And it was a very bad time in my life.
Did you know she was married?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Yeah.
I was.
You were just at that place in life.
I was just, yeah.
Didn't
I was
care.
that guy in the movie that
Didn't
needed
care.
to get the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, hey,
For sure.
this guy needs to get shook.
Why did you own up to it afterward?
I didn't own up to the husband, or I never even met that guy.
Okay.
I didn't own up to it to anyone other than who had called me on it. I was like, yeah, I did that.
Oh, okay.
That was it. It's not like I went around toting that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I recognized that I was making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I had met this girl at San Angelo, because that's where we were training, in San Angelo, Texas, for my job in the Marine Corps outside of my basic training. And I'm kind of going all over with the story, but it's it'll work itself out. You'll hear it. And what I did was I recognized that she was a good lady, and I didn't want to be the guy to corrupt her. I just recognized there was something different about her, and I didn't want to be a douchebag anymore. I just was like, I don't want to do that to her. She just doesn't. That doesn't seem right, because as stupid as I was, I still had a sense of taking care of people. Like, I never thought it was cool to pick on people with disabilities. I wasn't that type of guy, but I was the type of guy that I'm just going to go do whatever I want that benefits me. But I would stick up for people because it's, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. As messed up as that was in my head to justify that in that time of my life. And so I avoided her. We went on one date. We just went on a walk and we went out to eat. It was nice. And I was just like, okay, she is a believer. I'm not going to do this. She invited me to church, met her parents, all the things. I did all those things. Wow. And her dad was an officer. And I shook his hand, looked him right in the eye, and she was really impressed by that. She's like, most guys who come over here are shy and timid, and they hear he's an officer in the military and they get all scared. I'm like, he puts his pants on just like I do, And so I avoided her. I had her number and I avoided her. And I just kept living my reckless life. And then I went home on leave and I did that. And then I got stationed in Arizona. And then I just amplified my stupidity.
All right.
Right. So when I totaled that car in 2009 in March, I met her in November of 2008, a couple months. I got into a lot of trouble. I was facing an NJP. I was facing a DUI. Like, this is out of the military, like out off post where I got in this wreck. So when I called the cops, they were the one that charged me, right? So I'm underage. I had 4 big charges: reckless driving, a DUI, minor consumption with alcohol in the body, and then one other charge. It was alcohol related and minor related. So they hit me with as much as they could, rightfully so. I was under the legal limit, but the legal limit for my age was 0, right? I wasn't supposed to have any. So yeah, they gave me all those punishments and stuff, and I got into a lot of trouble in the Marine Corps, and I decided, you know what? I need to just call someone and vent. I need to just get this off my chest, because I'm really hurting, and clearly getting drunk and doing this stuff is not helping anything. So I went through my phone because I did not want accountability. I didn't want someone that I was going to be around to know how bad I was hurting.
You just wanted to get it off your chest and vent.
Yep.
And feel better for a moment.
Yep. That's exactly what I was looking for.
You didn't want someone to hold your feet to the fire.
That's right.
And tell hey, well, what changes are you going to make?
Right. Yeah. So I got into my phone and I called this.
You called her.
I called her.
Ha
I called Jamie.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, I know she's a good woman and she'll listen. So I call her and I'm like, hey, and she's like, hey, what are you doing calling? I was like, I just need to vent. I don't want anything to go of this other than I just want to tell you what's on my heart right now, get it off my chest,
hang up,
and then we don't ever have to talk again. Legitimately, I told her this. She's like, okay. I said, now it's good. She's like, yeah. So I went on for like 45 minutes, and I told her about all of it. Told her about the incident that I did on leave, that I slept with this married woman. I was not proud of that. This car that I had wrecked, all of these things. And she said, there's more to this, but she said, you need to stop doing this stuff because you are claiming that you're living for Christ, but you're hurting him more than anyone else with you claiming that.
Go Jamie.
Yeah. And it made sense to me. It made sense to me in my undeveloped male mind at that point, right?
Yeah.
And she read me a verse. It was 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. All things have passed away, and behold, all things have become new, and the old has passed away.
Yeah.
Messing it up. Yeah. So, of course, what do? I'm like, all right, I'm going to get my grandma's handwriting and go get that tattooed on me. So I got it tattooed on my side, right? Because I'm a grandma's boy. I love her. She's awesome. They were really important in my life.
Sure. So you received what Jamie said.
I did.
That spiritual slap upside the head she gave you.
Yeah, and that was... So the way that worked out is I ended up going to court. So I had a conversation with God. I gave my life to him after that call. I think it was like the next day.
Jeez.
And it was powerful. I remember in the barracks, on my knees, on this gross alcohol-stained couch, giving my life to the Lord. And I told God, I said, I'm going to lie to everybody. I'm going to keep this lie going because I don't want to get my friends in trouble because it wasn't their fault. And I thought that was the honorable thing to do. So I told them a made-up story, and like those guys were never even there. I just borrowed my roommate's car, went and did all the stupid stuff, got in trouble on my own, and that was it. I wasn't going to get my guys in trouble. And I went to the judge outside of town, and he's like, hey, have you talked to the prosecutor? I was like, no, sir, I just want to get my punishment. I want to pay my fines, do whatever time I need to do, and move on with my life. He's like, you need to go speak with the prosecutor. I was like, okay. So I went and spoke with the prosecutor, and he looked at me, looked at my file, looked at me, looked at my file. He said, this is what I can do for you. He's like, you plead guilty to excessive speeding, and then that's it. And I laughed at him, vocally laughed at him. I was like, what does that do for me? I didn't understand what he was telling me. He's saying, he looked at me like I was an idiot. He's like, that means all of these charges go away, and you plead guilty to excessive speeding, and that's it. You pay this fine, and you're done. And I was like, all right, fine. I did it, took it. I went to the judge, and I stood before the judge, and he said, that's why I wanted you to see the prosecutor. I believe everyone deserves a second chance, and this is your first time with an offense.
Oh, man.
He's like, I'll tell you this, though. If I ever see your name come across my desk or any of my friends' desk, I'll make sure that the book gets thrown at you.
That's
yes,
a good
sir.
judge.
And I walked away.
Yeah.
I look at that as part of my holy spanking because, well, one, it was. I mean, 99 out of 100 times, that's probably not going to happen again.
Right.
And I mean, had those charges stuck, I wouldn't have been able to become a firefighter. I wouldn't have been able to have my CDL and all of the things that came after that. Mm-hmm. So I had to do a complete 180 in my life. Mm-hmm. I stopped drinking. I stopped hanging out with my friends that were getting me into this trouble, that were like egging it on. And that made a huge difference. But at the same time, because I got into the Word, man, I got into the Bible, and I was hungry for it, and I was on fire for it. And that feeling it was a spiritual high. And it's like, I want to say, I can't say this for everybody, but I want to say, like, every time I meet a new believer and they're on fire, I want to humble them and be like, hey, this fire is going to go away, but you need to remember it's still there. It's still in you. You just got to keep feeding it. You're not always going to feel this way, because you're not. You know, we have our ups and downs. I mean, I know you're walking through your life, and some of the guys you've had on your show before have all said that. You know, it's highs and lows. It's kind of like that stock market. You know, it just kind of goes up and down, but somehow it keeps going up. So yeah, I feel like, looking back on that, I don't regret it. But I do feel like I robbed God of an opportunity to work in those guys' life by lying and sticking with that. And I'm not proud that I lied. If I could do it over again, I would have just been honest right from the gate. Yeah. Not dime them out, but just say, hey, this is the facts of what happened. Yeah. And then let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. But I don't want to ever rob God of those opportunities again. So I think
interesting.
Truth is so important. You know, no matter how ugly or how harmful it can be, it's so important.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So how has that changed you since then? Well, catch yourself to speed.
Yeah. So we got married. The girl, right? Jamie and I, we ended up starting a long distance relationship. We got married in August of 2010. And that has been an amazing journey in itself. We have 2 kids. Hazel, she's my beautiful little girl at 13 years old right now. And Dawson, my courageous little son. He's just fearless, and I love that. He's 11. Yeah, it's so cool. So I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012. Had a brain fart there for a second.
It's all good.
We moved to Oklahoma, and I was a Department of Defense firefighter.
Oh, okay.
So I did that for a few years there, and then I took another job at Fort Knox in Kentucky, and we lived in Elizabethtown and Hodgenville area, down in Hardin County area, just off of Interstate 65. And then I was only there for 13 months. That was a really toxic work environment. Some amazing guys, though, that I worked with there, but the management was not very good at that time.
Okay.
So I took a job with one of my buddies, actually left over in Fort Campbell, and he was telling us about it, and I applied, and I got a job over there too. So I was commuting 2.5 hours to and from work. I was there for 2 days and then off for 3. Whoa. So this, you know, mama's at home with 2 babies, and I'm 2.5 hours away for 2 days at a time, and we did that for 3.5 years.
Whoa.
So
Jamie's a superhero.
Oh, aren't all wives? I mean, most of them.
Yeah, she could do that. Wow, with 2 young ones.
It was hard, man.
That was three years, you said?
Yeah, it was like 3.5 years there.
That was enough for that, I suppose.
Yeah, so overall, 7.5 years of firefighting for me. Wow. Outside of the Marine Corps. So that was a really big turning point in my relationship with Jesus and my relationship with my wife. Earlier, I had mentioned Celebrate Recovery. So because of my struggle with lust and pornography at that time in my life, my wife was ready to leave me, and I don't blame her. Wow. Because that's not right. You shouldn't be competing that. I'm claiming to be a Christian, and here I am being an idiot, you know. one of the guys that I really listen to a lot, Andy Mineo, he's got a line in one of his songs. He's like, "Why are you acting dumb on your smartphone?" You know, it's kind of funny, but there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
So she wanted to leave me, and because I knew how divorce had affected me and my brother, I didn't want that for my kids.
Good.
I never wanted to get married to begin with, going through high school. And I think that might have had something to do with why I was so cool just being reckless and stupid, because I didn't have any intentions on that. There was no goal in my sight or mind. Why would I want to put someone through hurt? And I didn't want a part of that. So when Jesus got a hold of my life, I wanted to go special operations. I was in great shape, and but I also really started to like this Jamie girl. And so I had prayed for her to go away. I did. I was like, "Hey God, if you want me to pursue this woman, then you need to bring someone into her life to sweep her off her feet, and it not be me.
Yeah.
And if you want me to go this special operations route and try to serve in this capacity, then you have to have that go away."
Yeah.
And it didn't. Obviously, it flourished, and God made that very clear in my life that, hey, this is your avenue. This is what you will pursue. And I was like, all right. So, and that was hard to kind of get over, because it's, that pride thing of like, hey, I want to serve. I didn't get to deploy. I wanted to deploy. I tried twice to deploy because of the unit I was in. I wasn't able to deploy.
Yeah.
And people who are veterans in the Marine Corps, they know how that system works, and people outside the military don't necessarily understand all of that, and that's fine. But I wasn't going to sign up again, because I knew how the game was played, and I knew that if I am to be a husband and a father the way I'm supposed to be, then I need to have my attention here.
That's right.
And I know that my mentality would be, no, my men are first. And then that's not conducive to a sound relationship.
Hey guys, I want to take a minute and give a huge shout out. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters out there. Without you guys, this show's not even possible, and it allows us to do some cool swag stuff like this mug right here. We're coming up with hats, t-shirts, things like that. But more importantly, we're going to be releasing some exclusive content that's only for our Patreon supporters. You're not going to want to miss that. So if this show has been any encouragement to you whatsoever, you guys got to get on patreon.com/forging the path. As little as $10 a month. Every dollar helps. Go there today and check it out. If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying a home or refinancing the home that you're already in, you got to reach out to Michael Creed and his team today. I've been in real estate for over 10 years now, and I can tell you there's no one better when it comes to the lending side of things than Michael Creed and his team. They take time to get to know every client. They treat every transaction like it's the biggest one of their lives. They give them all the options, educate them every step of the way, and they guide everyone to a really successful closing. We love working with Michael Creed and his team. So, once again, if you're thinking about buying a house or refinancing, you need a great lender, talk to Michael Creed and his team today. You can text them at 262-696-9048. Tell them that Adam from Forging the Path sent you. They'll take great care of you. We all know that real estate is the single best investment. It outperforms almost every other option in the long term. And my wife and I, we've been in real estate for over a decade, and we love helping people sell and buy homes. When it comes to the selling side of the equation, our goal is to help you sell your home for the most amount of money with the least amount of stress. And when it comes to buying, we want to help you find that dream home that has everything you need it to have without overpaying. And our goal is to make the whole process, whether selling or buying, really smooth and a great experience for everyone. So if you or someone you know are thinking about buying or selling a home in the near future, reach out to Zastro Family Real Estate. You can look us up online, or you can call or text me directly, 262-725-2855. And by the way, we're powered by a great company, Realty Executives Integrity. If you're thinking about getting in real estate, or maybe you're already in real estate and you want to take your business to the next level, let me know, because Realty Executives is the best of the best.
Yeah, where was I, man?
So to catch us up a little bit on, you left firefighting after, was it how many years? 7 or 8 years?
7.5, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, well, that was after that. It was hard. with Celebrate Recovery, that's where I wanted to take up again.
Yeah, because you were looking at porn and you were getting stuck in lust, and your wife was ready to leave you.
Yes. So
right around that same time, right when you were leaving firefighting, right?
I was still firefighting at the time. I was at Fort.
Okay.
I was just leaving Fort Knox and going to Fort Campbell. And
How,
I didn't want to give up.
Did you confess to her? Or did she find out? Okay.
She found out, and then I confessed.
Okay.
And that's not good.
And then she knew it was kind of an ongoing.
Yes. Yeah.
You probably had your ups and your downs, like a lot of people who struggle with all kinds of addictions.
Yep.
Days where you're feeling like, I beat this thing, and then other times where you're like, nope, I ain't beating it.
That's right. That's right. Okay. And then you just give in, and it's stupid.
Of course.
So I didn't want to give up on our marriage because I knew what it did.
Wow.
So we didn't have any money. We were broke. It's like, let's go to a church. Let's find this church. So we went to this church down in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and I met a guy named Dr. Ray. And Dr. Ray was the family counselor, like that type of pastoral role. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I'm going to go see him. So my wife and I went out there to the church, and she was out on the playground with the kids, and I went to go see Dr. Ray. Well, I sat down with him, and he's like, why are you here again? So I told him. He's like, no, go get your wife. I was like, well, my kids. She's like, no, my secretary will watch your kids. Don't worry about that. All right. So I went and got Jamie, and we sat down, and he tore into me. He's like, you are supposed to be the head of the house. You are supposed to be leading. How do you think this makes her feel? What you're doing, you know, is wrong. This is a sin. You're like all of the things. He was just getting me.
He pulled no punches.
No punches. And I needed that, you know. It's like, I think we need that. We guys need that.
Most guys do.
Yes. And
we're
my wife, of course, is sitting there like, yeah, get him, you know. And then, like, without hesitation, he turns to her and he says, and you are so bitter. And she's like, what? You know, coming after me now, you know. And it was hard, man. It was a hard conversation, but he's like, you guys need to start going to Celebrate Recovery. Oof. You need to start confessing to each other. You need to start being humble and kind to one another. Like all of the things that we knew we should have been doing, we just weren't because we're young. We have little kids. All the stresses of life. You need other people to invest in you as you're going through life, right? Mm-hmm. So going to Celebrate Recovery, 2.5 weeks took me to realize that lust was not my problem like I thought it was. It was pride. Wow. Pride is what was hindering me from saying, hey, I need help. And it was a very hard but beautiful time in our life because, like I said earlier, Jesus used that to restore not just our relationship with him, but our relationship with each other and with our kids. And it taught me a lot in the fact that, hey, I need to not let pride get in the way of what God is doing and get in the way of what I need to be doing. Mm-hmm. So
how many other guys do you think are in a similar situation where they think something is the problem, but it's really pride manifesting itself in a kind of unwillingness to just come straight, come clean, find help, be humble, receive the correction.
I think, honestly, I think every man struggles with that.
Yeah.
I think every man struggles in some factor or another. And I think even, especially in the church, we have that sense of pride. Like, hey, we know we're saved. But we can't forget it was Jesus' blood. Yeah. We can't forget that sacrifice of us even being prideful was paid for. Mm-hmm. So if we should be humbler all the more. Yeah. I think, and it can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Pride is it's just one of those attacks. Yeah. So, so our marriage grew, and I ended up, using my GI benefits. I didn't want to be a fool and let all those wonderful benefits just go to waste, so I tried to use them. Mm-hmm. I got my education, got my bachelor's degree, and my wife and I were at Easter sermon in 2018. We were always talking about the services, like, hey, what did it say to you? What did it speak to you, or whatever? We recap, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Her sister was with us at the time, and I said, I really feel like God is calling us to move to the inner city and just love people. And she burst out into tears. She burst out into tears because 6 months prior, this is a few years after we started going to Celebrate Recovery, we started learning about ourselves more, and she had felt that calling too of moving to the inner city. She didn't know where. I didn't know where. She's like, this is crazy. Like, God has literally given us everything that we had been praying for. We had a little 5-acre mini farm in Kentucky. We had all the animals on the farm, you know, the goats, the chickens, the steer, all that stuff. And it was cool, but it was a lot of maintenance and stuff. Had acres of yard to mow and all the stuff.
Did either of you have roots in inner city
No.
ministry or experience?
No. I grew up in the countryside of Wisconsin.
I know you grew up in...
Yeah, she was in Texas, in the countryside in Texas.
In Texas. So you're both country.
Yeah.
And
as country as you can.
You feel like the Spirit is saying, inner city.
Yeah.
And like, where does that come from?
Right.
And this is also kind of in the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, when, was it Dr. Ray?
Yeah.
And you're starting to like realize the work that it takes to come out of this addiction.
Yes.
And experience real healing. All of this is kind of happening.
Yeah, all of it at the same time. But this is like more so on the back end. Like, we're actually starting to progress in our marriage and relationship with God. We're getting a schedule. We're getting a routine. We're growing.
Yeah.
And we can feel like we're growing again.
And so this seems like a curveball. Like,
yes.
We got momentum.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
And so I got my education, and I feel like, okay, I don't feel being called to ministry. She doesn't feel like we're being called to ministry.
Okay.
And I say that in like the pastoral role,
vocational.
or like the vocational type stuff.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to be missionaries or anything like that. We didn't want to depend on other people, but we believe in the tent making side of it.
Right on.
You know, the biblical idea of you go to a city, you build tents, make your money, you preach the gospel. You love people. Yeah. Right? You be neighborly. You do all of the things. So we started looking into cities, and for whatever reason, Milwaukee, Wisconsin was it. I mean, we did have a little bit of roots to, if we wanted to get out of the city, we could go to my parents' place or whatever. And the city aspect, it's like it wasn't too overwhelming, but it wasn't too small either. And it's sad, but if you look at the statistics with cities, I mean, the crime, the dropout rate, all of the things, and that's not something to be proud of, right? But it's like, hey, there's a calling there. There's a need to be there. Yeah. So with the tent making mindset, I was like, okay, what do I believe is the best way to invest in people? And it's education in a lot of ways, you know, when they're young, right? What was I going through? I couldn't read, right? When I was in 3rd grade, I was fortunate and blessed to have good men in my life. My dad, my grandfather, my stepdad, and guys throughout my firefighting career that were older. They just grab me by the ear and be like, "Hey, come over here, man. We're gonna do some things. We're gonna talk about some things. I'm gonna show you some cool stuff." Yeah. Guys just investing in me throughout my life. I was fortunate to have that. Yeah. And a lot of the things that happen in the inner city, it's like, where's the dad at?
Exactly.
And it's not just there, but it's everywhere.
Right.
And so we were just like, all right, here I am, send me, right? That mentality. And we were really concerned about it because of the crime and all that stuff. So we talked to Dr. Ray, and we're like, hey, we feel like God's calling us, but I'm not sure about our kids and all that stuff. He's like, if God's calling you, he's calling your kids. Just go. So I took a significant pay cut, almost half of what I was making, and God provided, man. He showed up. I mean, wiped debt away, was able to get into a new place, and like the bills even down to almost the penny. It's like we're still able to live just fine. Wow. It's like, so that fear part of being afraid to step out into something that you're uncomfortable with. Sure. And I got to share this. I was just reading the other day. In a study, and it was something on fear. So I wanted to say this. It's a quote. It says, "Fear is not an indicator that you should stop. it is often a sign that you are stepping into something significant. And then that made me think of 2 Timothy 1:7, right? For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we just need to be bold and step out
right
into this. So we did. And let me tell you something. To all the teachers who are listening, I applaud you. You guys are amazing. That was the hardest job I have ever done in my life. I was firefighting. I was in the Marine Corps and teaching.
You came to Milwaukee.
I came to Milwaukee. I was doing inner city teaching.
Education. All right.
Yeah. I had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies. I had about 276 students, 7 classes a day. It was nuts, man.
Man, the system's set up against you right from the start. That's
so I had
ridiculous.
My wife and my 2 kids. They're young at the time. This is 2019 that we started this. We moved here in 2019. We found a church here before we moved here because we know how important it is to have a community of people to be around that are going to support you, that you can relate with, all the things. It was so difficult. I was getting less than 4 hours of sleep, trying to grade papers, trying to get a good lesson plan ready to go, and trying to just invest in these kids. And I learned really quickly that these kids are here to just be kids. This is their safe place in this school, the confines of the school, where their brothers and sisters are being looked after by other adults. They can just be kids. They can act foolish. They can do whatever they want. And it was really hard for me because I'm trying to pour myself out into them and get them to learn, at the same time trying to get them to understand that their life is important and that Jesus loves them and that they got people praying for them and looking. They don't want to hear any of that. They just want to be a kid, because they're not taking care of their siblings or their parents or in an unhealthy living environment or whatever that might look like. And that's not everybody's case. I mean, there are some kids that have both parents at home and some kids that have a much better financial situation, and then other kids that are like, you don't know if they got a place to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
So then you taught for how long? 2019? Because COVID's right around the corner now.
Yeah, COVID happened, and then...
And you're still teaching.
I'm still teaching.
Yeah.
And
how was that experience for you?
It was difficult because everything went virtual. It was a learning curve for everyone.
Yeah.
And you would get on there, and all these students are supposed to sign on, and you might get 1 or 2 kids that sign on. And that's it. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can't contact them. You try to reach out to them, but if they don't respond back, what do you got? And COVID was a whole nother thing. I don't even want to get started on that.
All right, we won't get started on that.
But
how long did you teach for?
That was it. I was like, I can't. It's not. It wasn't sustainable for me because I knew that my first priority was my kids and my wife, and I couldn't sustain that.
But it sounds like God still taught you something in that season.
A lot.
That's a thing. That's a thing with a lot of guys I'm talking to as I hear their stories lately. The Lord is a redeemer.
Yes, He is.
So therefore, no season of your life is wasted.
Right.
If there's something from that phase of life that you think was just a total desert wasteland, that he can yet use it for profound beauty, influence, and power and significance.
Absolutely.
But you got to let Him.
Yeah.
And you got to be humble, and you got to he's a redeemer and He's a teacher. So nothing's wasted. And I'm like being reminded of that in a lot of conversations lately. So with you in that season that a lot of people would probably glance at if it were playing on the big screen and be like, oh, that's a wasted season.
Sure.
Nothing to be gained from that.
Sure.
He taught for a year or two and it was hard, but it wasn't wasted. What did you learn from that?
I learned that there are some amazing people that are teachers, and that just like every profession, that there are people that should not be working there because their heart isn't right.
Yeah.
They're there for the wrong reasons. But more importantly, I learned about the inner city culture.
Yeah.
What is valued, what is not valued, why are the things happening? Well, how many people do they have investing in their lives? What does their community look like? What does their home look like? It's like you can get whatever you want from movies or make any, what is that, Monday morning quarterback speculations. Yeah. You don't know until you live it. you don't know until you see the hurt on kids' face. It's
That's
like, what's going on? Like, I'm trying to help a kid out. Like, what's going? I had a kid. He took something. Because of my medical experience, I knew like he was on some type of drug. He took something in the middle of my class. He was completely fine. He took something and he went on a trip. 8th grade kid. And so I called my buddy who's another teacher. I was like, hey, can you come get him out of here? He just needs a safe place to just rest right now, and you got to talk to him. Because I can't talk to him. I can't relate to him. I can't talk to him right now. But he was freaking out and like tripping, breaking up fights and stuff in school. And it's like, why are we doing this, guys? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Yeah. So, fast forward a little bit more. I found my passion for gardening. I found my passion for jujitsu. I found a lot of different things. It was something that growth happened with COVID. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start gardening and do this stuff. I took another profession. Wow. But God continually weighed on me with music. Because when I became a believer back in 2009, I was listening to a lot of rap, a lot of rock, and I was thinking about, okay, God, you've placed this on my heart, and I have avoided this long enough, because I was like, how cool would it be to start up a Christian hip-hop radio station and just get the seeds of positive love pointing to Jesus in people's heads? Yeah. And I avoided that because I can't do that. I'm not good enough. Wow. I can't relate.
Way back then, he put the dream.
It was on my heart, man. It was on my heart.
But you didn't know what to do with it.
I didn't know what to do with it. And but it was such a radical change in my life when I did get that holy spanking that I changed who I was. I stopped hanging out with who I was hanging out with. I stopped listening to the stuff I was listening to. I wasn't watching porn or anything for the longest time. Mm-hmm. It was something I had stumbled back into later on in my marriage that just was, it became toxic and then was eating at my marriage and all the things. But when I first was on fire, I was in the Word. Wow. Like 24/7. I had this little Bible like this big. It's just I still have it. The pages are like tattered and all highlighted and underscored. Just like, it was such a beautiful time in my life, just being like, I want more of Jesus. Yes, I want more of what he's got for me. And this other profession that I started allowed me to have the finances, and it was really until my wife took the courage to step out on something she felt God leading her to do, which was just to public speak with Jamie Chapman Speaks, right? So she started up a nonprofit, and I started up a nonprofit called The Spark FM.
You got to tell us really clearly, what are these two nonprofits? So where can we find them?
So Jamie Chapman Speaks, she's a public speaker, right? So JamieChapmanSpeaks.com, I believe, is her website.
Awesome.
And then thesparkfm.com. I started a Christian hip-hop
radio station.
Yeah, and it's a global radio station. Yeah. It's really cool, man. It's our mission is to deliver the gospel of Jesus in a raw, real, and relatable way. I can get more into that soon, but it's like the whole premise of it is, how can I invest in the inner city? Mm-hmm. How can I do this? And it's because I believe with all my heart that everything that we watch, everything that we read, everything that we listen to, all of these things are seeds that we are subconsciously planting in our heads. Yep. And these things come to fruition in our life in one way or another.
They influence us deeply.
They do. And if we're going to listen to crap that is glorifying all the things that God despises, like, it's in our social media, it's on all the apps, it's everywhere. It's so easy to just go down the rabbit hole of whatever you want to listen to, whatever you want to do. And it's like, how do you combat this stuff? You combat it by putting good in your life. And that's why it's like, okay, I want to relate to these young men, these young women. I want them to know that they're not alone. I want them to know that they're loved. I want them to know that there's other people out there that are hurting just like you. I want them to know that there's a Savior that loves you through all of this, and that despite your circumstances that you're in, he's got a plan for you, and he doesn't waste a hurt, hang up, or habit. Celebrate Recovery taught me, like, through being vulnerable, through being honest, you're gonna grow. God is gonna use those ugly situations in your life that you know you screwed up on, that you know you really messed up. And he's gonna say, I've got a plan for you, because I'm able to relate to that guy that went through a similar situation that I did. I'm able to say to him, you're not alone, bro. There's more for you in life.
Yeah.
And it's like being in the church, we can so easily forget that. We can be so quick to just be judgmental.
Right.
And it's like, that's not what Jesus wants. I look at it like this, like a lot of people want to say, yeah, but Jesus flipped the table. He did. And I'm so glad he did, but he didn't do it to the people on the outside. He didn't do it to the unbelievers. He didn't do it to whatever you want to say is the struggle in the community. He did that to the people in the church.
Yep.
He did that to the people in the church that were supposed to be showing the community God's love, supposed to be investing in their neighbors, supposed to be honoring God with their words, their lips, all these things. And he was enough of it. He's like, I'm flipping tables. Yep. He sat there and made a whip and looked at people like, I got a plan for you, bud. Like,
because that was supposed to be a house of what?
House of worship.
House of prayer. Yeah.
And worship.
Yeah. For anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And instead they turned it to a place of profit.
Yeah.
And it became less than worship and prayer. And so that was a prophetic act that I think, like, if I want to get into table flipping mode, the best place to start is probably my own home.
Yeah, probably within myself.
I would say,
within myself.
In my own heart and in my own living room. That's you got a little table flipper in you? Like, all right, let's go. Like, cool, start there.
Yeah, 100%. Start in the mirror.
Don't start with other people around you.
Something I like to teach my kids and the young adults that I get the opportunity to influence is, like, I'll tell them, hey, everybody point your finger at someone right now. Point your finger.
Yeah.
I said, now look at your hand. You've got 3 more fingers pointing back at you. You need to remember that you're liable for a lot of the situations, right? It's not everything. You can't control so many things, but you can control how you react.
Yeah.
So you got to remember that.
Yeah. That's really good for us men to know. Like, we talk about ownership and accountability and responsibility 100%. A lot on this podcast. And it's like,
yes,
hold yourself to the highest standard. Check yourself first and most frequently.
Yes.
That's the best place to start is that type of ownership.
Yes. So I got to tell you about jiu-jitsu because I know you've had guys on your podcast talk about jiu-jitsu, but
a couple times
with the gardening.
Yeah.
Gardening, I'm not great at it, but I love sticking a seed in the ground and then weeding out the roots. I love watering them, taking care of them, nurturing, speaking good words to them, like talking about like God's got a plan for you, little plant. Like you're gonna fill my tummy, right?
Yeah.
But it's so good for the mental health to just get your hands dirty.
Yes.
And it's so good to be humbled. And as a man, our calling is to love and nurture our family and be those protectors and those providers and speak kind words into them and grow them and invest in them in a loving and kind and humble way, meaning we admit when we make mistakes, right? But sometimes we just get stressed out, whether it's money is tight, something's not going right in the house.
Yeah.
It's good to get that physical thing out, right? That physical aggression, that physical sweat, whatever that is. Yeah. So jiu-jitsu has been that other mental health thing for me more than anything.
Wow. Because
it's so humbling to just go into a gym with another group of guys or whatever that can be your community to just whoop up on each other. Yeah. Sometimes you win, sometimes you get destroyed, and that's all right because it's like you know that you're there to grow with that other guy, with those group of people, and they need Jesus too. Yeah. You know, it's like you get to be a light anywhere you go, and that's, I think, we as Christians, I like saying I statements because you want to take ownership and accountability like you're saying. Mm-hmm. I feel inadequate. I feel I can't do that, or I am afraid to do that. Mm-hmm. Well, why? Why? You're qualified to light up a room with darkness, right? Mm-hmm. You got the Holy Spirit in you, right? Mm-hmm. Why are you afraid? Mm-hmm. Just do it.
That's right.
And
well, your quote said it earlier.
Yeah.
You might be feeling the fear because you're on the cusp of something great that God wants to do in you and through you. Yeah. And then to remember, like you also said, 2 Timothy 1:7, okay, cool. Feel that fear, acknowledge the fear, but then realize that fear isn't something that you're supposed to like act out of.
Right.
Just give it to the Lord, because he didn't give you fear. He gave you power, love, and a sound mind.
That's right.
Or self-control.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really powerful when you shared that. And that probably has only become more real in your life because of things like jiu-jitsu, correct?
Yes. So it's great to be humbled. It's great to win sometimes and feel that physical wrestle and that struggle, because it forces you to have to slow down and think things through and not just react. It's like sometimes you are just going to react, and that's where that training part comes in. Sure. But you have to really slow down when you're getting your butt kicked. What do I need to do to get out of this? Mm-hmm. And I listen to Jocko. I like him. Of course. I listen to a little bit of Andy Frisella. Yep. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. And one of the things he says is personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. And he's got a different context of what he uses that for. And then something that Jocko says is discipline equals freedom. That's right. And really, when you're thinking about these things, it's like when you're talking about, hey, look in the mirror. How are you going to better yourself? How are you going to grow as a man? How are you going to grow in your relationship with God? Are you going to be disciplined and be in your word every day? Are you going to be disciplined and avoid crap foods? Are you going to be disciplined and force yourself to work out when you're tired and you don't want to work out? It's that compounding interest thing. And that's something I'm thinking, like, we want to know those things in financial aspects. What about in the physical aspect? Yep. What about in the spiritual aspect? That's right. That compounding interest grows. It's like, if I'm going to sit here and waste my time looking at something I know I shouldn't look at, or if I'm going to sit here and while I'm driving and listen to crap music and just be like, oh, it's all right. It's a tight beat. It's cool. I like it. Never mind that it's talking about drugs and sex and all the things. Right. Never mind that I'm wasting all the time when I could be using this to glorify God somehow. Or I could be using this to invest in my neighbor or learn something new to help better myself and my family and community. Yeah. It's that compounding interest. You don't know what you don't know, so why would you waste your time consuming something that you know is crap? For sure. And so just implementing those things in my life, it's like the nights that I have gone to, the nights or mornings that I've gone to church, the nights and mornings when I've just gotten in the Word because it's that habit of, I need to be disciplined in this. Those are the times where I've learned something that has really been profound and stuck with me. The times when I've gone to jiu-jitsu class when I'm just tired and beat down, those are the nights where I usually perform the best. That's right, yeah. It's like, I don't want to be here, but I'm here. Okay. I've had so many workouts. I can totally relate. Like, the ones that I'm like, I hate this, I don't want to do it. Dude, bear complex. Oftentimes are like the best one. Afterward, even if I didn't, sometimes I get a PR, and even if I don't get the PR, I feel so much like I overcame something today. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's that physical and mental win of like, you know what? This is paying off. Yeah. This is paying off. Like, I'm setting a better example for my kids. My neighbors see me out, whatever. Like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm doing great. Your back still hurt? Yeah, it always hurts. But I'm working through it. It's like, I'm not going to let that be an excuse, Just those little things of growth are so important for me, just the little wins. Yeah. And another thing that happened in 2009, I was walking back to my barracks from my station, and I saw this piece of trash on the ground. I couldn't drive. They wouldn't, I got my stuff revoked because I was an idiot. And I just walked right past it, and I felt God. I want to say this is like one of the only times, twice, but one of the only times I felt an audible voice from God being like, if you are not obedient in the little things, how can I trust you to be obedient in the big things? Yeah. So I pick up trash now. Nice. And it's like, it's another thing. I like to recycle. It's easy. People want to throw out cans and stuff. It's like, it frustrates me, but it's like, fine, I'm going to take that and then go do something good with that. Be obedient in the little things. Yeah, being obedient in the little things. Oh, man. And then I gotta say this one more thing.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Oklahoma, that's where a lot of my struggles with that porn and that lust thing kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember waking up in the only time I had like those cold sweats, I was just being a douchebag, and I was watching porn that night. Didn't do anything about it. I just was, why am I doing this? And I'm watching that. I went to sleep, or I tried to sleep. I woke up. It was like 1 a.m. I couldn't go back to bed. But I remember in my dream, all I could see was this outline of this black podium, like a judgment podium, right? And all I could hear was God say to me, the only thing he said, why have you wasted the time I have given you? It's like, I don't ever want to hear that from God again. I don't ever want to hear that from God again. So it's like,
wow.
That discipline equals freedom, that personal excellence thing, that just being in the Word, that iron sharpening iron, like we need that.
Yeah.
We need that. And that's why it's like the Spark FM, like we want to deliver that gospel in that raw, real, and relatable way, because we so forget. We forget we're not alone. Mm-hmm. That is a lie from the enemy. That fear thing, that is a lie from the enemy. Our enemy is Satan and that's all right. of his little cronies. And they're really good at what they do because they've been doing it for a long time. Mm-hmm. We're not the first man to walk this path, you know? And anyone who's good at battling or fighting or whatever, the strategic war thing is like, you want to sow confusion. Yeah. You want to sow fear and chaos. And then you want to divide people. And then you want to isolate people. And then you conquer them. So we need to be proactive on that. Bringing it back to that, like the compounding interest of the consistent little things. Mm-hmm. We need to be disciplined in being in our word and being in our workouts. And
being in community. And not
being
isolated.
In community. Yeah.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah. There's this one podcast I listen to. Yeah. It's this really cool guy. He does you might want to remove this one.
Are you going to make a corny joke?
Dude, I'm totally going to make a corny joke. He says, he's like, iron sharpening iron. It's not some cuddly little thing. I mean, sparks fly, right? It's like, yes, they do. Get into a jiu-jitsu gym, Yes, make a relationship with those guys, share Jesus with them, and then go work stuff out in the mat, Yeah. I mean, that's biblical. Guy got his hip to pop out because he was wrestling with God, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So.
And he walked with a limp for the rest of his life.
That's right.
But a new name.
That's right. New name.
A new name and a new identity.
That's right.
Man. Okay, so we obviously have to do a part 2 because we're out of time.
Okay.
So here's what I want you to help me remember when you get on for part 2.
All right.
We got to speak to advice you give to guys who are struggling with addiction. Yeah. And specifically porn. Yeah. Because that is a silent epidemic that's killing the soul of a lot of guys
100%.
Right now. So what do we do? What do guys in that situation, that struggle, what do we do? How do we help those guys? Yeah. Let's get real, raw, and honest about that stuff. I also want to take a little bit more time to highlight some of the stuff you and your wife are doing, especially Spark FM. Right now, there's an app, right? Can you point people to the app at least? Yeah.
So if you go to the website, thesparkfm.com, you got to have because there's another Spark FM out in Boston.
Okay. But yours is better. So
100%.
Spark FM.
Yeah, thesparkfm.com. Or just go to your app store. Yeah. And we got a free app for Androids or Apple products, and you can listen to the music 100% anytime you want. We're growing, we're working through things, so we're trying to make it better so it doesn't pause or glitch once in a while. But for the most part, just refresh your app and you're good to go.
All right.
So,
okay, we'll cut it here for today. But Addison, please come back soon. I'm thinking a couple months, sometime over the summer maybe.
Love it.
We'll do a part 2.
Would love it.
Thank you for sharing your story, man.
All right. Thanks, brother. Likewise.
Take care.